Speaking of Halloween, Mom every year still dresses up for Halloween and makes poor Dad dress up. Dad, you are such a good sport. Even tonight, you were such a great sport. And Thanksgiving, she dressed up like a pilgrim once and had Dad, I think, dress up as a pilgrim. The best Halloween party I think she ever gave was for the Campfire Girls, and we had this big attic, and she had fixed up the whole attic, and there was a dummy that she fixed, and it had a knife in it with ketchup or blood or something for blood, and it looked daughter.
That was cute.
She had treasure hunts on the farm. Now all the kids remember that with clues and the actual treasure to dig down. And at the farm, she always had lots of dress-up clothes. Lots of dress-up clothes when Phil and Donna and I were growing up, and same for the grandkids. And she, because of that, the grandkids would put on the best shows at the farm all the time. She had a special cabinet even for the grandkids on the farm with all their goodies, so they could hardly wait, you know, not just to see Grandma and Grandpa, but also to see what goodies they had. Another thing I think of with Mom is cooking. There's always more than enough food when Mom cooks. I do remember the time, though, when Mom cooked some potatoes a long time ago, and she used this water, and unfortunately she didn't realize there was acid in the water, and she cooked the potatoes, and then she realized what she'd done, and we were all rushed to the hospital. Poor Phil, he was the youngest. Donna wasn't born yet, but poor Phil, he was the youngest, and he had to go in and have his stomach pumped. So
thank you, Mom.
So that time cooking wasn't.
I love you, Mom. I love you.
Speaking of potatoes, isn't it true that when you were a young girl, you would, one of your jobs was you had to peel potatoes?
Oh, yeah.
And your father was really strict about it. Couldn't be too thick.
Right.
But Mom one day, she was afraid it was too thick. So she went out in the back and she buried him in the backyard, right?
Yeah, anything but so he
Who did you bury in the backyard?
The potato.
Oh, the potato head.
Yeah, I wonder if potatoes sprouted up later. Another thing she did that has to do with kind of like eating was the time she tried to, and it also ended up kind of scary. Just like she thought her name was going to be in the headlines, mother poisons family with potato water. Well, I think she thought she was going to be in the headlines with mother chokes daughter to death with soap. Because I made the mistake one day of saying shut up to my brother, and he still hasn't forgiven me. And Mom got very mad at me and took me in the bathroom and started to put soap in my mouth and a toothbrush and all this.
Yeah.
And I started to choke, and she got very scared.
Yeah, I never did that anymore.
Yeah, I taught her, didn't I?
You tried.
Anyway,
And all she said was shut up. It would have been if you'd really said bad words.
Anyway, she also was real good at taking us to church and Sunday school, and the thing that I remember the most about that is when we would come home, and she would always start a roast before, and when we would come home from church, there would be a smell of this wonderful pot roast cooking, and she made the best, she still makes the best pot roast. Yes, I do. Sundays were always family days. We weren't allowed to have friends over on Sundays because Mom said it's a family day. So another thing Mom liked to do is she likes to write. And I was going to read this, but maybe a little later I'll read something. I just don't want to talk too long here. But she would write things for the. She's written me wonderful letters, but she writes. She's also written things for the grandchildren. And this is great, because this is about Lynette's graduation. You remember writing that?
No, it's a high school graduation?
No. And it's really interesting because you kind of tell about your graduation and comparing it to the kids today and how it's different, and it's pretty fun.
Funny.
Yeah, it is. She always would make us write thank you notes. Now we use email, so... Another thing, and Mom is very, very generous, and I think she told me recently that when her father died, she got some money, and it wasn't very much. At first, she wanted to use the money to buy a cabin for the family, but she found out it wasn't very much money. So what she did was she took the whole family to the World's Fair up in Seattle and took her mom. So I thought that was really nice. Most of the time, she stayed at home and was there for us, but she did work at Penny's for a while. And
A while, 10 years.
was it 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years.
I didn't know that. Anyway.
She deserted us for 10 years.
Wow. Anyway, she hardly ever spent money on herself. It was always for us. Always spent way too much money for Christmas and birthdays, still does. Poor Dad.
Yay! We love you, Mom.
We took lots of trips, lots of camping trips. She asked the impossible from Dad when it came to loading up the car. When we went on a recent snow trip, poor Mom, she's getting a little less, what it was stable, yeah. She twisted her ankle.
Mentally or physically?
She twisted her ankle on that snow trip. But that makes me think of the episode at Disneyland, Mom. Do you remember that episode?
At Disneyland? Oh, when I got caught in the
Turnstile.
Turnstile. She was trying to get through the turnstile, and I got right between her legs.
Nothing like
And she
that, but
couldn't
that
go
thing
either
ran
way.
like your
And everybody
She did one
was
of
trying to
these.
get her leg over and everything. You probably had a dress on, I don't know. It was back in
That's
the
horrible, I
the
know
early
that.
60s.
And all those people in line, and I'm there like, what do I do? And that thing is.
And didn't you leave a little, did you leave a
And we
little,
noticed it took you a while to get free.
did you leave a little puddle there?
I probably
No.
did, because I was pretty good at
That
it.
wasn't the time she
No,
left
it
a
was
little
snow.
puddle.
I've got that next, but
Do
go
you
ahead.
have that?
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
because I thought maybe you left a puddle there, but
No,
I
left
do
a
know
puddle, you're
that you
talking
left a puddle in an elevator
Oh,
in San
yeah.
Francisco.
Oh, no, somewhere else
Another
too.
place,
That
okay,
was
tell us
terrible.
about it. But she was in a fancy elevator, and with Uncle Buf and Aunt Roberta and Aunt Loretta and Uncle Chuck. And they had gone out on the town, and they were in the elevator, and for some reason Mom started laughing hysterically. Her sisters always make her do that. And she lost control, and horrified Uncle Buf. And then they walked out of the elevator and left this little puddle. So,
And Mom, do you remember the time at J.C. Penney's when we went for our family portrait? And we're all sitting there on
right.
a bench,
I forgot.
and as we leave the place, you left a puddle there as well. And we're walking away, and there's a puddle on the floor after we had our family portrait.
You don't even anymore.
Well, I must have had a very weak bladder from having you 3 kids.
That's
That's
it.
it.
That's it. It's our fault.
That's, I could blame it on that. But really, that experience at, what you just said. What did you
Our
say?
family portrait. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
a lovely
Well,
moment.
they sent the proofs to us. I couldn't order one of them because we all looked.
You're laughing so
We were
hard.
laughing so hard, you can't see anybody's eyes. It's just shut. And our faces are all scrooched up, or whatever you call it, when, like you look when you're laughing really, really hard. So I couldn't order any. But then I wished later I did, because we could laugh forever.
It was a
Because that
Kodak
picture.
moment.
Yeah.
It really
Now,
was.
now the thing with Mom, I said she was generous. She's so generous. She was giving away Aunt Beulah's things before Aunt Beulah was gone. We all have stuff from Aunt Beulah. She could hardly wait to give things away. And like Phil mentioned, I think of her playing the piano. She took after her mom that way, and she plays by ear. And I love the way you have such a nice, smooth, jazzy beat.
Thank you. Nobody else has ever told me
Well,
that.
I love her. She still supports her family. In fact, she was even at her great-granddaughter's baseball game this morning.
Absolutely. I
So she
wouldn't
could
have
see
missed it. She did so good.
That's why we love you, Miss Queen, for a day.
Oh,
Well, I'm going to give you part of it right now. This is from the clip.
But while she's giving you that,
I'll tell you what, I'll
you
just tell you what
know,
it is.
you're on your feet all the time.
Oh, yeah.
When it's time, you get it.
He's gonna give you a
Good
foot massage,
massage.
because you're cleaning
doesn't
for the
that
day.
feel good?
He was gonna wash your
That's
feet, but you
really
were not.
That's
good. You want to
right.
trim my toenails?
And this little piggy went wee, 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 all the way home, just like you.
Hold it.
Wee wee, just like me. Very nice. Boy, I'm getting so much attention. He's trying to break my ankle.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Part of your, because you're queen for the day, you and your escort
Yes, that's my husband.
We hired an escort?
are going on April 17th out to dinner at the Basil Leaf Cafe in Livermore. And you are going, with this course with Jim and me, and you are going to a live musical at the Altarena Theater